Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and today I'm doing what I'm calling the Blu Ray versus HD DVD redo. So why am I doing this? Because it's fun to reminisce. So let's take this one and let's just kind of go from the beginning. HD DVD and Blu Ray both have their origins in the 70s in the Laserdisc format. They were trying to create a home video format that used laser technology back in the days when they were just figuring out lasers and how they worked. And they created this format called LaserVision, which was later renamed Laserdisc. Laserdisc were these record size CDs, discs, DVDs that were the size of a record. They were 12 inches huge, and they played movies. Now they had a couple of problems with them. Two or three problems. Problem number one, besides being so fucking-gantic, is they could only hold 30 minutes on one side for ones that had special features, and 60 minutes on one side for ones that didn't have special features. And when I say special features, I'm talking about audio commentary tracks or like lossless audio, digital audio, things like that. The other issue with them is they were standard definition. Now, we're not going to get into the history of HD TV, but we are going to say this. Movies on film have been at a higher resolution than what we call HD resolution today since the beginning of film. So they were scaled down to SD. The other problem with Laserdisc is it was an analog format. Instead of a digital format. And there's a whole argument of analog versus digital, but I'm on the digital side, so sue me. And those were the biggest problems. So the first attempt to modernize Laserdisc or advance the technology was in the early 90s. They came out, it was Philips introduced a machine called the CD Interactive, or CDI for short. And they had a format called the CD Interactive Digital Video, CDI-DV. And right off the bat, they discontinued CDI-DV and replaced it with another format called Video CD, or VCD, which was Compact Disc Digital Video. VCD, or Video CD. And it was short-lived in the U.S. It only lasted about 3 years, and then it was replaced by DVD. Now, it stayed popular in Asian countries for a very, very long time, but in the U.S., it fizzled out after a couple of years. It was a flash in the pan, and it's really hard to find video CDs that were produced and released in in the North American market. Most of what you're going to find comes from Asia. So let's just put that out there. The next advancement in the technology was DVD, which was it was basically Laserdisc shrunk down to the size of a CD, with a 12 centimeter instead of 12 inches. So, they shrunk it down. Basically. I mean, it's not it's not an exact one-to-one analog, but that's basically what it is. DVD is still SD, but it is a little bit higher resolution than Laserdisc. You can have anamorphic DVDs, which you cannot have. You can have widescreen Laserdisc, but they're not anamorphic. They're matted. So, they don't look good on a widescreen TV. And DVDs are also digital. There's some debate over what DVD stands for. Back in the day, they told us it stood for Digital Versatile Disc. Others claimed it stood for Digital Video Disc, but that didn't make sense because it was used as a storage medium on computers as well. The official story is it's just DVD. It doesn't stand for anything. Just like VHS doesn't stand for anything, DVD doesn't stand for anything. It's just DVD. DVD came out in 1996. Now, HD DVDs came on the market in 1998, 2 years after, in the U.S. We're not counting Japan. Japan is ahead of the world, but we're going to set that aside. So in the U.S., HD TVs, the first HD TVs came out in 1998, and we had two to choose from. You could get an LCD TV or you can get a plasma TV. Now, shortly after, you could get a DLP TV, which was complicated and messy, and I'm not going to get into the differences in the technology. Needless to say, we didn't have any high definition content when HDTVs hit the market. So the first HD content we had was broadcast TV stations, which would upgrade to HD and switch over to the ATSC format and produce and broadcast in high definition, 1080i. Which is what is the broadcast standard. The broadcast standard, when you're watching CBS in HD, you're watching 1080i. So let's put that out there. So it was not quite perfect. But the earliest HD TVs were like 576p and 720p and variations of those two formats. So we didn't even have 1080i TVs for a while. And we didn't get 1080p TVs for a long time. Probably 10 years or so. Almost 10 years after HD TVs came on the market, we finally got 1080p. It took a while to get there because the technology was expensive and it was new, blah, blah, blah. So in 2005, they came out with this new format that they were introducing called the High Definition DVD, or HD DVD. And Sony and some of their partners said, no, we've got a better technology called Blu Ray disc, BRD. And for whatever reason, the two sides couldn't come together and come to a truce. So Toshiba led the charge on HD DVD and Sony led the charge on Blu Ray. Now, this is where things get a little bit messy. In 2005, Microsoft released a console called the Xbox 360, which was the first true HD console. Now, the original Xbox could do 720p, but it was not like standard, and it wasn't like full 720p. The game, it's complicated. But it could do 720p, but the PS2, the GameCube, and the Xbox could do 480p, which was EDTV. So they could do progressive scan, but they couldn't, and they could do anamorphic progressive scan, but they couldn't do full HD. The Xbox 360 could do kind of full HD, but it used DVDs as the format. And the HD DVD format didn't come out until 2006, late 2006, I think June or July. And Blu Ray came out right after it. So Microsoft released a HD DVD disc add-on you could plug into your Xbox 360 and watch HD DVDs on it. And Toshiba and some of their partners were producing HD DVD players. They were expensive at the time. We're talking $500-$600 players. Sony went a different route. Sony introduced the next HD console, the PlayStation 3. And Sony put a Blu Ray disc player in the console day one. And they put all the games on Blu Ray discs. And they bundled it with Blu Ray movies. And they pushed Blu Ray hard. But Toshiba was crafty. Toshiba did this thing where they got television and movie studios to sign exclusive contracts that they would only release their content on HD DVD. In response, Sony and their partners got content producers to sign exclusive contracts saying they would only exclusively produce their content on Blu-ray. And then you had Warner Brothers, who was right in the middle, and said, no, we're not taking sides. Which is kind of weird because Warner Brothers, like, at the time, they were one of the biggest studios out there. So it was like, yeah, they just want to sell movies. They don't give a fuck. So in 2007, I bought my first player. I bought an HD DVD player. And in 2008, I bought a Blu-ray player. Why did I get an HD DVD player first? Economics. It was $300 for a Blu-ray player at the time, and I got the HD DVD player for $125. It was a big fucking difference in price. HD DVDs, I could go to Shopko, I could go to Kmart, I could go to Target, and I could get them for cheap. They were comparable to DVD, relatively inexpensive at the time. Now you gotta remember, this was at a time when DVD was inexpensive. This is at a time when brand new releases were $10. Now, this is important to note because that has changed, obviously, since then. Because DVD was at its peak, at its most popular point. So they were churning them out in big numbers, so they could sell them for nothing because, they were churning them out in big numbers. Well, HD DVD was supposed to replace DVD. So you were supposed to buy an HD DVD player and then replace your DVDs with HD DVDs. And then that was supposed to kill the DVD format. That was the plan. But consumers didn't buy into HD DVD because it was, by technical specifications, somewhat inferior to Blu Ray. I say somewhat. Not really. And I say not really because from a home media perspective, they're identical. When I say identical, I mean they're both anamorphic, they're both 1080p, they're both high bit rate, they both have lossless audio. They're literally, the video content on an HD DVD is 100% identical to the video content on a Blu Ray disc. Where the difference came into play was on computers. HD DVDs capped out at 30 gigabytes. 15 gigabytes for single-sided, 30 gigabytes for double-sided. Blu-ray discs were 25 gigabytes for single-sided, 50 gigabyte for double layered, dual layer. I always fuck that up. And they were able to expand Blu-rays up to 100 gigabytes, which they could not do with HD DVD because of the way HD DVD was created. So in 2008, long story short, in 2008 the studios flipped Toshiba the middle finger and they all went over to Blu-ray, and then there was no new content coming to HD DVD. So there was no point in to continue producing the hardware because there was no content coming out. It was dead. It was a dead format. Dead. It was just done. That is when I bought my first Blu-ray player, and I paid $150 for my first Blu-ray player, and it was a cheap Kmart Panasonic. Yes, I bought it at Kmart. This was at a time when Kmart still sold electronics. This is a long time ago. Kmart's don't even exist anymore. So this is a long fucking time ago. And Blu-rays were more expensive than HD DVDs, but I wanted the Blu-ray player because I had an HD TV at the time. I had upgraded, and I wanted HD content. I was paying my cable company the premium package for the HD channels. I wanted HD content. So I was buying Blu-rays. And then something fishy happened. Netflix streaming came on the scene, and all of a sudden you didn't want to spend $30 on a Blu-ray disc, $15 on an HD DVD, $10 on a DVD. That was just who wants to fucking do that? Well, the other thing that happened is Blu-ray didn't take off per se, but it sold well enough that it did carve a niche in the market that took away some of the DVD market share. And as a result, because of streaming and because of Blu-ray and then eventually 4K, DVD sales went down. Because sales went down, prices went up. Prices went up because they're more expensive to produce now because they're not producing them in the big numbers. So we have this weird, reverse S-curve where DVD actually is more expensive than it was before Blu-ray came on the scene, which is really fucking weird. One of the reasons for that is pushback against streaming. Streaming services have become ridiculous. They're fucking overpriced, and there's too goddamn many of them. And so consumers are, especially collectors like myself, are reverting to DVD because it's as expensive it is compared to what it was at its peak. It's still less expensive than Blu-ray. And if you don't have a 4K TV, there's no reason to have a 4K Blu-ray player to buy 4K movies, which are even more expensive. So you got this weird, complicated relationship where you have DVDs killed the format that was supposed to replace it, and then the Blu-ray has kind of sort of hung on, but also kind of trying to evolve into 4K Blu-ray. But like, you have too many people streaming for that to actually take off, and too many people that are just fucking cheap who would rather have DVD because, you know, you got a 32-inch 720p TV screen, Blu-ray's good, or DVD's good enough. I have a 32-inch 720p TV screen. DVD's good enough. Yes, I do still occasionally buy Blu-rays if the price is right, and for certain movies like the big budget sci-fi horror blockbusters, you know, the big fucking the Marvel movies, the Star Wars, stuff like that, like the big spectacles that you want to see in HD. Everything else I'll get on DVD. Everything else I'll just get on DVD because it's fucking cheaper. You know, I can get DVDs for $5 at Walmart. You can't get Blu-rays for $5 at Walmart. I mean, $7. It's a $2 difference, but hey, $2 is $2 fucking dollars. You know, when minimum wage is $7, do you want to spend a whole hour's worth of your wages on a fucking Blu-ray disc? Christ, no. So, where do I stand? I bought into HD DVD for two reasons. One, like I said, it was cheaper than Blu-ray. And two, at the time, I was vehemently anti-PlayStation. And the reason I was anti-PlayStation is because I blamed Sony for Sega's fuck-ups, for putting Sega out of the console business. So I hate it because I didn't want them to do the same thing to Nintendo. I latched onto Nintendo and I was like, fuck PlayStation, fuck Xbox, I'm 110% Nintendo all the way. Obviously that has changed. If you watch this channel or follow me on Twitter, you know I'm a PlayStation girl now. And I'm like, hate Nintendo now, but that's another story for another day. I've already done a video on it. I've done a couple videos on it. But it took me a while to soften on PlayStation. It did. It took me a long while to get to a point where I could be okay with owning a Blu-ray player. And even longer still to get to be where I could be okay with owning a modern PlayStation. So for me, as a collector, I have no interest in buying a HD DVD player now and collecting HD DVDs. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they've had their day in the sun. They're a thing of the past. They're like CEDs or Video 8. They're obsolete. Let them go. Leave them in the past. DVD, I'm gonna hold on to. I'm gonna hold on to DVD. Probably as long as DVDs are being sold, I will buy DVDs. Blu-ray, I'm moving away from. I will never have enough money to buy a 4K TV. I will never have a house big enough to have a TV big enough to appreciate 4K. So there's no reason for me to ever buy a 4K Blu-ray player. I do not own a Blu-ray player. I own a PlayStation 3 and I own a PlayStation 4. They have Blu-ray players built in, but that's not their primary focus. They're game consoles that play Blu-rays. My laptop doesn't even have any disc drive at all. This laptop, the laptop in my bedroom does, but I don't use that one as much because the screen is broken and it's hard to use because the screen is broken. And the keyboard is broken too. It's missing several keys, so you got to kind of like use your fingernails and like click it. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's just it's a pain in the ass. That's why I got the new laptop. Yeah. I had a good time rooting for HD DVD back in the day and arguing with people online about why HD DVD was the better choice than Blu-ray, even though I knew better. Because when you get down to it, as a computer format, yeah, Blu-ray was better because it could hold more data. But as a video format, they were 100% identical. The video file on one was identical to the video file on the other. They were VC1 or AVC codec. They were 1080p, anamorphic widescreen, fucking lossless audio. They were the same. I mean, you were going to get the same picture quality out of an HD DVD as you were going to get a Blu-ray. There was no difference. I had them both. In the end, I stuck with Blu-ray. I got rid of HD DVD. I put it in the past, but I've reversed course, and now I'm pretty loyal to DVD. But there is that.